Hey guys, today's video is something I've been wanting to do for a while because I get asked a lot about how do you have a successful career as a bass fisherman. And I don't know that I know the answers to those questions, but alongside those questions, I get how much does it cost to fish? How much do you spend? Do you have a retirement? Do you save? I get all these questions on just how to live as a bass fisherman, and everybody's story, including mine's unique to their own. But I just wanted to share with you a little bit about how I keep track of what it costs me from a fishing business perspective, and how much it does cost me. And then again, is it sustainable? Is it a business model that you can run with? And make a career out of it? And these are all the questions you get all the time. And if you're thinking about fishing professionally, or you've dabbled into it or whatever, you know a little more, a little less about these questions. But here's a video on it, and here's what I do. So I'm gonna hit record. I'm sitting here at my computer. I'm at my house that I grew up as a kid. I'm at my dad's kitchen table here. Every year in the off season, I come home, and this is where I continue to do all my video editing for my hunting and fishing stuff. And I just want to dive into this because I'm literally estimating how much it's going to cost me to function as a business for 2025. I leave in 2 days. In 2 days, it's January 13th. I leave in 2 days, and I'm going to hit the road. And I know that I'm not going to return until, well, I'll get back home sometime in September, and then I leave again in October for a tournament. I leave again in November for one more tournament. But basically, I'm going to be gone for 9 months straight before I come back to Oklahoma. And this is what I do. Like, this is how I run it. I actually just now finishing it up. So when Miranda and I chose to change lifestyles in the September of 2021, I quit my engineering job. She quit her job in the healthcare business at Oklahoma Surgical Hospital. We sold our home. We sold her Nissan Murano. We bought an F350 dually diesel, and we bought a fifth wheel to live in. So we went from a 3,000 something square foot home to a 330 square foot fifth wheel. That was the decision we made as a married couple that we were all in on. She was excited to do it. I was excited to do it. I had been fishing with the FLW Tour professionally from 2017, 18, 19, 20, and 21. So I had 5 years of traveling and fishing with the FLW Tour, doing some Costas, Toyota events throughout, but also I was coming back home and working sometimes 60-hour weeks, maintaining my full-time job. So I had an idea of how much it was going to cost to fish, how much money I maybe could make, and I just straight up told my wife, we ain't gonna make anywhere close to the money that we make with our jobs now, but we might be a whole lot happier with our lifestyle and our levels of stress. I wanted her to not have any stress. And the healthcare world, those are just such selfless, loving people that work in healthcare. It takes a special person to even want to do it at all, but the mental health of it and the stress that comes with it is just overwhelming, and I could see it paying a toll on her, and I could also tell that I was just getting completely exhausted doing both. I had to pick one. So I chose fishing, the thing I've loved since I was a kid. Anyway, so I'm a numbers person, engineer, I'm a numbers person, spreadsheet person. So the first thing I want to do is sit down and build this spreadsheet. So I've got this spreadsheet built here, and I'm at 2 minutes and 12 seconds just so I can get in line with you guys. So let's look, 2022, this was our first year. We're gonna go full-time 2022, and I build this spreadsheet. So this spreadsheet here was accompanied by another spreadsheet where I first just laid out our events. And then I took those events, and I actually have that spreadsheet as well, but this is gonna be 2025 fishing schedule. So I created a schedule like this for 2022. It showed the date of the event, it shows my practice days, when we were gonna arrive, when we're gonna depart, the name of the city, just how much it's gonna cost, and then I started keeping track of our bookings, but the cost to enter the tournament was provided. So I took that, and then I turned it in to a travel miles and expense spreadsheet. And so this has everything I need to know from what it's gonna cost us as a fishing business to break even. This is my best guess at what it's gonna cost. So I go in here and I calculate my start location, end location. I'm gonna calculate miles driven for each one of those. If it has toll, it's denoted in red, and I calculate how much the toll is going to cost. Now, we have an F-350 that runs diesel. Well, my Toyota Tundra is regular gas. I go to this website right here, the U.S. Energy Information Administration, and I get the average fuel cost across the United States. And that's the dollar amount that I use, and I get it in January, and I just assume that that average is going to work out. We know what our fuel economy is, we know what a mile is. I know how much it costs us to drive from A to B, from B to C, all the way across and back. So I'll calculate that, and I get these numbers here. So in 2022, it's cost just under $3,000 for diesel gas for us to travel the 9,474 miles just to get from A to B. It doesn't include all the little stops in between, going shopping, going eating dinner. It doesn't have that in the fuel. Same thing cost my truck about $2,400. And then I calculate boat fuel expense. And you know, that's going to be different for each person, but I know how many days that I'm going to spend at my campsite here. I know how many of those days I'm going to be on the water. It's probably going to be about 80% of those days. I'm either going to have an off day, I can't be on the water, or I'm going to have weather days keep me off. But about 80% of the time on all of these days, 259 days out of the year, 80% of those days, I'm going to use boat fuel. And I estimate that to be about 20 gallons a day. So that's how I come up with my average boat fuel cost. So in 2022, I estimated I was going to burn $12,700 in boat fuel. Total cost per event, or total cost for the year just in fuel, was right around $18,000. $18,000. That sums up those three columns. So that's just the fuel of both trucks and the boat. 18 grand in fuel. Now, I know how many nights I'm camping. I know what the average cost per day to camp is. It's about $30 a night. So the cost for us to stay in the camper is $7,260 that year. Toll, not as bad as you may think. $216 in toll that year. Now it depends where you go, because there's some really expensive toll up by the Great Lakes, going east and west along the south side of Lake Erie. That number can go way up real fast. So you can choose to take toll roads or not. And then how much are you gotta eat? So again, I've got 259 days out on the road. It's gonna be groceries, you got to take your wife out to dinner. How do you estimate that? The closest I can get to it is I aggregate maybe $40 a day back in 2022. That's what I did. That cost has gone up now. It's now like $50 a day. But again, $10,360 to eat. And then entry fees. Entry fees, huge part of tournament bass angling. You get to decide how many you want to fish. That year was almost $41,000 in entry fees. Then you've got like your regular monthly expenses. So for me, I still have a boat payment. I still have a truck payment. Back then, when interest rates were good, I was still sitting on a 2019 truck. I got 0% interest rate. So my interest rate was 0% and my boat was 4%. Great interest rates. But those were monthly payments I had to make. I had auto insurance. I had health insurance, which was really cheap then. Life insurance. And then how much does it cost each year to wrap your truck and boat? All these numbers fluctuate every single year. And then I got a cell phone bill. These are all of our bills. So monthly alone, just my monthly bills were $31,000. But the expense to travel and pay entry fees and live on the road in a fifth wheel, my wife, myself, Marshall's not included in this, but Marshall, we've learned how to get Marshall's cost down, our multi-poo. But $108,000, that's how much I had to bring in 2022 for the business to break even. That's not saving a dime. That's how to break even in the business. I was a little bit taken back by that number. I remember thinking, man, that's a lot of money to make catching bass. It really is. But it's real. That's the real number. So when we move forward to 2023, you're going to see that the cost has gone up. 2023, the cost was almost $114,000. So we went up from $108,000 to $100,000. It went up $6,000. So I sat down and tried to dig into this and figure out, where did the interest rates change in my loans? Why did my monthly expenses go up? Here it's $36,300 for the month. It was $31,000. So $5,000 of that just came out of this increase. Well, where did this increase came from? Well, my health insurance went up. I got insurance through Major League Fishing Angler Association. My health insurance went up. And my interest rate, I got a new truck. My interest rate went up to, or my boat interest rate went up to 6% on my boat that year. So my payments went up there. Entry fees went down a little bit. All in all, though, the cost went up. 2024, guess what? It went up again. And you can keep an eye on the fuel too. So $3.21 for diesel, $2.90, 2022, $2.90 for regular gas. In 24, it went from $2.90 to $3.09 for my regular gas, and it jumped to $3.88 from $3.21 on diesel. So the cost of fuel is going up. Miles driven changes. Anyway, all that adds up. 2024 was almost $130,000 is what this spreadsheet told me I had to make. So just in 2 years, I went from $108,000 to $100,000. The cost to do business and make a living and break even to cover these expenses went up $20,000 in 2 years. Entry fees go up. The cost of living goes up. Look at these look at the interest rates. New truck now, 8%. I'm done with the 0%, 8% interest rate. My monthly payment skyrocketed. Boat insurance or boat payment was 10%. Skyrocketed. All of a sudden, my cost for living now is $45,600 just for my monthly stuff. Just my monthly payments. I've got to pay this stuff, right? So it went from 2022 went from $31,000 to $45,000. So of that $20,000 increase, $14,000 of it was because interest rates went up. My cost of my health insurance went up. My boat and truck wrap skyrocketed. It was almost $6,000. I had years before this where I got my boat and truck wrap for like $1,800 both. So the cost of everything has gone up, just like we know it, just like groceries. Again, the cost of food a day, I went to $50 a day. That's how much I had to make. That's how much we had to make. 2025, I'm just now getting there. We're up to $134,765. So it's gone up another $5,000. Now, when I look at this though, I know the interest rates are starting to go back down, but I haven't consolidated any of my stuff. But the fuel prices, $3.56 for diesel, it was $3.88. It's gone down. This is an election year. This is probably very politically driven. $3.05 in my Toyota was $3.09 at the beginning of last year. So gas has gone down a little bit. I'm traveling a little more. Now my entry fees have gone up. So my entry fees were $40,000 last year. They're $45,000 this year. So really my increase from 24 to 25 is basically all entry fees. Nothing else is really changing. So from an economic standpoint, it seems like our country's kind of leveling out here at the end of 24 going into 25. Maybe we're going to stop seeing some increases. I know these interest rates have gone down, but I'm still locked in. I mean, it's not like I've refinanced these or anything. So it's a big number. It's a big number. And so in order to break even in that, those sponsor dollars, so I've got another spreadsheet, and that's personal. I'm not going to share that with you guys necessarily, but I keep a spreadsheet of all my sponsors over the years, past, current, present, future, prospective, and I'll know how many dollars I'm going to get in sponsor dollars. And then whatever that delta is, I've got to figure out a way to make that money. So let's just say, for example, in 2024, okay, let's say I had $50,000 in cash sponsors. First of all, it's really hard to get $50,000 in cash sponsors. I don't know how many anglers get that, but it's very hard to get it. It's hard to maintain it. It's doable though, but you've got to work really hard at it. If you take that number and you subtract $50,000, you got a really good sponsor. You got $50,000. You have to then make $79,000, almost basically $80,000. That's how much money you have to make in tournament earnings. If that's all you're dependent upon is how much you bring in a tournament, you have to bring in $80,000 in tournament winnings. 2024 was my best season that I've ever had from tournament winnings. And I was able to make that with a win and a second and an Angler of the Year and through sponsor incentives. You know, a lot of my contracts, if I have top 5s or top 10s, I'll get a little bonus. I get money from Toyota trucks. In Costa, they have cool programs that everybody can participate in. You've got to figure out a way to get to that number. But what I've learned is that there's only a few anglers out there, probably less than 10, that are just flourishing in our sport. They're getting tons of sponsor dollars, and they've earned it. They have been given God-given gifts, and they literally can catch the bass better than everyone else. They are the Michael Jordans of our sport, and they deserve it. Other than that, every one of these other anglers are having to come up with this much money somehow, and they're not getting it all from sponsors. Everybody's situation is different. Maybe they've got a successful business and they've worked really hard and they've got people that know how to manage it for them and they trust them, and that's the way they sustain income. For Miranda and I, well, I don't have a business. This is my business. Some of these guys guide, and that's a really good way to get some extra money. You $400, $500, $600 a day or more sometimes in the off season or in between events, and that's how you get that number, because maybe you're not cashing enough checks. I try to make some money on YouTube. I don't do amazing on YouTube, but I get some money via YouTube. I get some money via Facebook. And then we have tried to buy property and resell it, and we made some money that way. So it's a little bit of an entrepreneurship, and we're dibbling and dabbling in all kinds of different ways to try to make ourselves some money. And that's not going to change. We're going to constantly have to grind and work hard to figure out how to make more money, because in 2025, we have got to bring in, my wife makes quilts. We sell quilts. We've got to bring in $135,000 or else we're taking a loss. And what makes it even more scary is if you do succeed at this and you break even, it feels like a victory. But let's say you make 10 grand one year. You can't just go blow it and go have a cool vacation or something like that, because in all reality, at the end of every year, you don't know how many sponsor dollars you're going to get. If you got 50,000 one year, you may only get 20 the next year. You might get 70, you might get 40, you don't know. You may not cash any big checks at all, and you literally could be in the hole. $100,000 is a realistic number. If that's going to cost me $135,000 to fish this year, I could lose $100,000. What happens if you lose $100,000? It's different for everybody. But this number is real, and this number is going to be different for you than it is for us, because obviously we're taking a fifth wheel around. We have a diesel truck. But if you take away the diesel expense, just for fun here, let's say, okay, I'm not taking a diesel truck. Let's just make this zero for a second. Entry fees are not going to change. I'm not going to be camping. I'm going to be staying in Airbnbs, and so I may only stay for the length of the tournament and come back. Whatever. You could play with this spreadsheet. You could get to where you want to get and figure out how much it's going to cost you, but it's still going to be a really, really high number. Entry fees alone are $45,400. So even if you do the whole, it cost me about $1,000 a tournament, and you fish 16, 17 tournaments, you're going to be at 45 plus 20, you're going to be at $65,000. That's probably the cheapest you're going to get out of fishing all that whole season. So how do you make that money? That's it. That's what it looks like. That's the reality of the world. You have to build relationships with sponsors, both endemic, meaning affiliated with fishing, non-endemic, meaning not really affiliated with fishing, your fence companies, your oil, your gas, your whatever you want to look at. You've got to build strong relationships and keep those partnerships in good faith. Show them how they get a return on their investment. Build those relationships, because those are crucial. Out of all the anglers out there to do it, they're all really, really good anglers. Anybody could win at any given time. And there's a lot of fantastic, amazing anglers out there that don't fish professionally. And there's a lot of fantastic, amazing anglers out there that have never won a tournament. But they all know it's just, you go through your slumps. You can have really bad tournaments when you think you're going to have great ones, and you can have a great one when you think you're going to have a bad one. Nevertheless, it is a scary ride to depend on money coming in from tournament winnings to break even and look at your spouse or your girlfriend or whoever and say, hey, we can do this year. We're gonna be a successful business. But that's it. I've been wanting to make this video because I think it will answer a lot of the questions that people ask me. But that's what it costs to be a professional angler. If you're in my truck and my boat, and if you're married to me, fortunately Miranda lets me deal with all the numbers, so she doesn't have to get stressed out about it. But that's the bottom line. It's stressful. It's hard to do. We do it out of passion, something we love to do. I love to fish, and she is just an awesome wife to support me in that and keep the fifth wheel. She does the fifth wheel. That's so awesome. That's very, very attractive quality in a woman to tow a fifth wheel, and helps me with the camp and everything. So that's it. I've rambled on long enough. I hope this was insightful. If you got any questions, put them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of this, and I'm sure there's ways that I can make this better and more accurate. At the end of the year, we can revisit. So we do all of our business expenses on one business credit card. And so you can go back and kind of compare some of these numbers and track how much you spent versus to what you estimated you would spend. And, you know, those numbers come back pretty close. So I'm feeling pretty good about a lot of these numbers each year going into it. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to make $135,000 in 2025 for me to break even. That's it. See you guys in the next one. Want to be a pro angler? Bye.